All right.
This was a big fucking week in that we finally got something from Sony. And we got more from Xbox in retaliation almost. It's like they're, battle for mind shares for whenever news is being released. So we've been sitting around waiting forever to have something coming out of PlayStation for the PS5 or the Sony from PS5. I joked about it on the last couple podcasts where it's like, people are probably starting to think that we're Microsoft shills because we barely talk about Sony, but the reality is that there's been absolutely
there's been no news.
No news coming out of Sony about the PlayStation 5. So we finally had something. It was publicized. It was talked about leading up to the event, whereby Sony was going to be showing off, discussing the PlayStation 5 live on YouTube. It was going to be a wonderful thing. That got pushed around. Everyone was getting excited. This was the event that was talked about 3 or 4 podcasts ago where we said sometime this month coming, there's going to be an event. This was it. This was the thing. So
this
people...
wasn't
but as it turns out, Jeff, this wasn't it. So
not even close.
So what this ended up being was essentially their GDC deck. Their pitch deck for GDC is what this really was. So the Game Developers Conference that didn't obviously got, like everything else this year, got fucking shot out of the sky. And Mark Cerny, who is an industry fucking legend, he's a god, and on his off time, possibly a Dana Carvey lookalike impersonator that gets paid for parties, got up on a fake stage that looked like a not joking Saturday Night Live skit. With the fake audience, that they even separated the audience in front of the fucking podium so you could see the PlayStation logo properly. There was just, it was just 4 random fucking producers sitting in the front row, like Mystery Science Theater 3000, like the black the heads to give the illusion that there was an audience. It was odd. And when I first started watching it, I hopped on the stream real quick, put it on, and the first thing that I thought of was, and I said, I really hope that this is like a jab at Microsoft for being hyper corporate and whatnot, and be like really wordy, and then they're just gonna drop this shit, and they're gonna be like, fucking dubstep horns are gonna go off and fucking fireworks and shit, and then there's gonna be like a console reveal and just do something gamey. No, this was full blown Game Developers Conference session. This was something that should never, in a million years, have been promoted in any way, shape, or form. It should have just been sent to the people that would have seen it at GDC that this was actually for. Which, to be honest, I'm still not sure who the fuck this was for, because even if it was a technical talk for people, it was such a high-level technical talk that it sounded like it was like an extended elevator pitch for a CEO that knows nothing about anything. Tech related. And so it was very odd. It was a very odd discussion. However, in that roughly little less than an hour, we did get some decent information out of it that we can now talk about. And I almost fell asleep listening to it, but we got there.
All right.
So old Marky Mark got up on stage, and the first thing that we can talk about here is that the PlayStation 5 will be fully compatible with PlayStation 4 games. So the way he put it made it seem like that wasn't the case, but it was clarified. So it is, in fact, compatible with all PlayStation 4 games. However, what he said about the majority of the top 100 in terms of most played hours games, they will be at launch available for what they're calling what is it called? Boost mode, which is basically where the games are running at the frequencies of PlayStation 5 games. So you're going to get higher frame rates, but whatever the fuck. It comes with the power of the new console.
Boost.
It's boost. They're putting on the turbo bass button, basically.
All right.
And so it is fully backwards compatible PS4 with just most of those top 100s, with more coming in the future with the boost mode, but it has to be done on a game-by-game basis, and so it will be similar to Xbox with the original Xbox games and 360 games, whereby they have to do it on a game-by-game basis to bring it up for that boost mode. So we did find out about that. So we do know, for example, that they didn't even mention PlayStation 3 or PlayStation 2. They'd mentioned it insofar as they discussed when the PlayStation 3 was backwards compatible with PlayStation 2 and PS2 with PS1, etc. But they did not talk about they did not talk about, for example, the PS5 being like pop in a disc, and away you go. That's not happening. It's not there. Not only that, but it doesn't even seem like, at least with the information we know right now, and it would likely have been in that conversation if it was coming, that they're going to do what Xbox has been doing with Xbox and Xbox 360 games in terms of reaching back for the really popular stuff, updating it to be compatible, and then playing it with increased frame rates, resolutions, the whole whatever the fuck it needs to be, or however they want to do it, on the new hardware. So that's just not coming. So if you want to play your older games, go find a fat PS3, go find a PS2 Slim, like Jeff's got a PS3 Fat right next to him. That's going to be the way to go. Or buy them all over again when they're likely to try and sell them to you on the PlayStation store at some time in the future as remastered, digital, downloaded, whatever the fuck. So we found out about that. So that's one thing that we found out about. The next thing that we found out about was talking about storage. So next-gen storage is obviously a big topic because as we're discovering, and as you would have seen downloading Warzone, a fucking 80 to 100 gig game, and games getting 50 to 80 gig patches, the size of the hard drive needs to be pretty fucking monstrous right now, and that's especially so because games are so much going towards download only, or people are mostly using downloads. They're not buying physical copies so much anymore, right? And even if you buy a physical copy with these new consoles, they're going to be transferring to the hard drive so that the speed of loading is possible to allow these next-gen games to do what they need to do. So, with that being said, we found out about their storage. So they are using PCIe 4.0 NVMe drives, which is, remember when I built your computer, it's a solid-state drive on that little strip-looking thing. It wasn't like a 2.5-inch drive. It was the little strip. That's an NVMe drive. So they're using those, essentially, but they're using the internal one's a custom one, specifically. As most consoles are, the storage is custom to work with the CPU and the GPU as fast as possible, the RAM, etc. That's 825 gigs internal is going to be the launch console's storage capacity. So you're going to start with 825 gigs. That's a nice healthy number for sure, and will allow you to have likely somewhere in the neighborhood of 5 to 10 games depending on the game that you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
And then as far as expanding the storage, which is then everyone's next question is, well, obviously in the future we're going to need to expand this shit. How do we do that? PlayStation's solution is to rely on NVMe drives that are simply going to make it to the market. PCIe 4.0 drives specifically. So ones that you could just buy off the shelf, plug it in,
connect it,
and away you go. But it's not just any drive that will work because it has to meet really specific speed specifications for the games to work like they need to, because it has to match to a similar spec, if not better, than what the internal drive is. And so what their solution for that is that they're going to be putting out a public whitelist of drives that are, confirmed good by Sony that you can go buy and put in your console, because you can't just go buy any NVMe drive and slap it in and off the races.
It's the same thing what cameras have done with, SD cards and things like that.
Similar with cameras being that, like, you need certain class SD cards if you're shooting at certain frame rates or certain resolutions. You need a higher speed card. Similar to that kind of idea. And so that's where they're going with their solution in that regard. And other than that, they talked about their 3D audio, which I'm going to talk about later on because it will be in the part where we're talking about both of the consoles, comparing the two consoles. So other than that part, that's all we really, and that was nothing really learned that we didn't already know in general. We do now have proper specs to compare the two consoles now. We're not guessing anymore with like bird sounds written in a tweet. The coo thing from last week. We don't have to rely on that anymore. We just know. So now we can actually compare the consoles. Xbox Series X's release date was quote unquote announced for Thanksgiving, but it's not Thanksgiving. Larry, what's his name? Herb. I can't fucking. I always just call him Larry or Herb, so I can never Major Nelson, whoever the fuck you want to call for this. But it's still holiday of this year. They don't have a date. It's holiday window 2020,
Corona's fucking all that up, boys.
barring Corona making the development impossible. So that's where we're at with that. And then for Xboxes, we found out about their storage solution, how they're going to tackle this stuff. So what we do know right now about the Xbox Series X is that their internal drive is also a PCIe 4.0 drive. It's 1 terabyte. So you're automatically getting 20-something% bigger internal drive with the Xbox Series X over the PlayStation 5. Standard USB 3.2 drives, or any USB drive because it's USB is backwards compatible, are supported for the system. So if you wanted to expand the storage with a standard USB drive or like a hard drive, like a standard disk, you can. However, that's only possible to run the games off of that if they were native Xbox One, 360, or original Xbox games, because they don't need the speed. And so they can run off of those drives. You could just plug it into if you already have them on a drive from like your older consoles, you plug it in, they'll work. If they're backwards compatible. That's what the drive's used for. Those drives can also be used for downloading Xbox Series X games, and let's say you're done with them or whatever, and you don't want to just delete it, you can move it to that drive. So in the future, if you want to play it again, you don't have to re-download it. You just pull it off of your external storage because it's cheaper to have mass storage with that kind of stuff, and then not have to re-download it. But it can't play Series X games off of a standard hard drive or anything like that. It's not fast enough. And so to solve that, they have a proprietary expansion card, which is based on NVMe technology that they've worked alongside Seagate and other manufacturers. It's about half the size of an NVMe. It looks almost like a memory card. And remember when we saw the back of the Xbox Series X originally, there was a port that was like a weird square? That is what that's for. Gotcha. So it's only about, if you're on video, it's yay big. It's almost like, it's not the size of like a PlayStation 1 memory card, but you could think of it as basically that. And it will run at the exact same speed and specifications as the internal solid-state drive that the console has. So it means that there's no questions. So their idea was they have two routes they can take. They can either do the thing where they let people buy whatever the fuck, and then put up with the headache of likely people ignoring the whitelist and then hitting up their support team, asking them why the drive they just bought doesn't work to expand their storage on the console, or just make a drive and know that people will, regardless, will buy it, they'll know it works. So they're not going to be the only proprietor of this. Seagate already announced their own drive for the Xbox that's certified, so there will be more than that. It's not going to be the same thing like it was with the 360 where it was like super expensive drives only made by Microsoft or whatever. Don't get me wrong, whether you're buying one for the PlayStation 5 and it's off the shelf, or you're buying this one for the Xbox, which would be probably anywhere from $25 to $50 more than a comparable drive just because it has to be it's proprietary. There's some proprietary work that has to be done to it. They're going to be fucking expensive. PCIe 4.0 NVMe drives are not fucking cheap. 1 terabyte right now on a low end in US dollars is about $200.
Hell no.
And that's just expensive.
To the no.
And so it's going to be one of those things where thankfully, honestly, the majority of people buying a PlayStation 5 or an Xbox Series X they're not going to need one of these expansions right off the bat. They're just not. The hard drives they had before, if they have games on them from previous consoles, work. They don't need to have an expansion drive to swap that over. And you're not going to fill a fucking terabyte, even with the size of the games we have right now, overnight with your new consoles. You're probably not going to have to touch that for 1, 2, maybe even 3 years if you're really hell-bent on never removing a game from your system fucking ever before you hit that 1 terabyte limit. But for those people who, and they're out there, who never want to delete a game, they want every fucking game on their console 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and they don't want to offload it onto a hard drive, that it's going to cost you some money, especially if you're going to do it up front. We don't know pricing. It will be expensive. My best guess right now is that the first proprietary drives for 1 terabyte for the Xbox will probably be, instead of $200, it'll be $249, $279, somewhere in there.
Yikes.
But you never know with these things, just like the consoles up front, there's probably going to be bundles, or there will be like ways for Microsoft to maybe take a hit, but I don't think they need to. Again, 1 terabyte, I'm still using a 1 terabyte drive today, and I've got loads of PC games installed, and I've still got 400 gigs left on it. So it's not like you're going to fill 1 terabyte, or in Sony's case, 825 in a week. It's just not going to happen. So it's not something people need to worry themselves too much with. It's just 2 different ways of tackling the same problem. And I don't think anyone's going to have to worry, regardless if you have a PlayStation or an Xbox. What you do need to know is that these drives are faster than what you can buy and put in your PC right now. Period. And because of the architecture of these consoles, especially with the Xboxes in mind, the throughput on these things is fucking insane. And the entire concept of how levels load and how the game loads shit that's in front of you is going to dramatically change in this next console generation, to the point where there might be like an initial load time up front, but my god, when you're in that game, the fucking data that they have available to them now as developers, it's going to change. Like, level design is going to change because of this shit. It's going to be really fun to watch the first few years of seeing developers get their hands on this and being freed up by this kind of storage technology. Next up, Xbox's new wireless controller was shown off as well this week. Not a lot of changes to it, because obviously the Xbox controller is, for all intents and purposes, I mean, we've reached pretty much peak efficiency on that controller, as it doesn't get a hell of a lot more efficient. What they did do is they added a share button. PlayStation had a share button before, but as Xbox had sharing, but they just didn't have a dedicated button to it. With content creation being as huge as it is now, share button got added to the controller. And then they've updated the D-pad, which has always been a point that people have complained about on the standard Xbox controllers. So now it's a new hybrid D-pad that hopefully fighting game enthusiasts or people playing older games that rely on the D-pad will be a little happier with. And they added, I think as well, kind of brought down, it's almost like, you know, the Pro controllers for Xbox that cost $6 million. It's kind of like they're the race cars in the production line, and then over time they get like, all of a sudden the Toyota Corolla has shit that like the fucking like top end Lexuses had. It's like, it's kind of like that. So now we're getting rubberized like fancy fucking triggers and shit at the back of the standard controller as well. And that's the majority of the changes for that, as well as a USB-C for charge cable. So there's no more like mini USB or whatever, just your USB-C, which is nice. The more people use USB-C, the better. Please God, let that be everyone. So, like I said before, both consoles are now directly comparable. We know everything hardware-wise about both of these consoles. Digital Foundry did a massive deep dive on the Xbox specifically. I'm sure they're going to have one for the PlayStation when they have the capability. On paper, not even just, well, yeah, on paper, the Series X is not insignificantly more powerful than the PS5. The only category in which the PS5 outstrips the Series X is raw solid-state drive throughput, like the bandwidth of the internal solid-state drive. How much that's going to matter, or what that's going to result in terms of loading times or in-game occlusion and stuff like that, we'll never fucking know until the day comes. But what's likely going to end up being the trade-off here will be the Xbox will be capable of more particle effects, higher resolution, higher frame rate, but the PlayStation may have instances in which Stuff is just loading faster and perhaps running a bit smoother in some instances because they have the faster hard drive. That's what we're looking at right now on paper, but in practice, we won't know until developers start cranking shit out. The other thing that Sony has is that while the Xbox has 3D audio, mostly relying on Dolby Atmos as their source, they have a separate chip on board for 3D audio. Sony's 3D audio is a whole different animal. They're dumping a shitload of fucking R&D into their 3D audio, and they went in a lot into this during that presentation where everyone fell asleep, but that's okay. It was good. It was nice to hear about it. It was really cool to see. And if they can pull it off, and there's a lot of, even in his presentation, Cerny's presentation, there was a lot of ifs that they don't even know about yet. It could be really fucking awesome. But what it sounds like to me, because of all the ifs, is that, and because Xbox has the 3D chip as well, is that when developers for multi-platform are developing games, they're going to have to develop for a middle ground or lowest common denominator. And so you're going to end up with like Dolby Atmos or some level of 3D audio that's going to sound really fucking dope, but it's not going to make use of the full faculties of the PlayStation 5's audio capabilities. What will be first-party titles and in-house developed stuff, because that makes sense. It's like exclusives, that will make use of the full capabilities of the PlayStation 5's audio. They're talking about how they're going to try and make it work best, because right now, they need profiles for people's ears for it to work properly. I'll try and explain what I mean by that. Have you ever seen on any audio app or anything where you can pick a profile for audio to make it sound better to you? In fact, Call of Duty kind of has profiles like that. You probably saw when you first booted it up, where you can choose between like 5 profiles for audio. Your ear changes how everything sounds. So they're talking about sending in pictures of your fucking ear to have artificial intelligence scan that and then send you back a profile to load onto your console to make this audio properly work for you. Things like that to try and solve it, because right now what they do is they've taken artificial intelligence, dumped a bunch of people's ears, profiles of ears, and then made a best case like middle ground, like a map of the middle ground. But it doesn't work perfectly because you're doing it trying to hit everyone. So that's why I think while it's really fucking awesome, it's probably something that's mostly going to be utilized by first-party games that will be fucking incredible. It's going to blow everyone's minds, but the set of those games will be relatively limited. But it will be super fun to see how that works, because it is so much better, and it will work with anything you put on, any headphones. That's is the goal with this thing. It's not like you need to have a Dolby Atmos system to make it work. It works. It's to work with everything, TV speakers and up. So that's Sony's kind of in the pocket kind of thing to look forward to, and that's where we're at right now. The Xbox Series X is flat out more powerful. Whether that means that it's also going to cost $100 more than the PS5, we don't know. We won't find out until the time comes, or until much later in the year, it seems. And then the PlayStation has a significantly faster internal drive that's slightly smaller, and the 3D audio. And that's where the comparisons lie right now. So next we get to wait and see what the games are like, what the prices are like, and what developers can do with these two systems. But the one takeaway from this is that these things are fucking powerful, bro. Ugh. Holy shit. This is not the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4 launch. This is a different fucking animal. These two consoles, man. These two consoles are going to be better than my computer and your computer on launch day. And they're going to be better than computers you can build for anywhere near the price for 1 to maybe even 2 years afterwards. It's fucking big dick swing and really crazy, and it's going to actually make PC gaming better. It's this is closer to when we did the Xbox and PlayStation 2 jump than any other console, is what we're looking at right now in terms of technology. Nice. So fun and exciting stuff to look forward to the E3 that won't happen.
And the console launches that won't happen this year.
The console launches, but it'll come. It's coming. It's coming. Any thoughts on that? Because I know that's a lot of technical speak that you're not like a big fan of. But does any of that excite you? Anything seem interesting to you?
No. Dude, I'm a super casual console player. So
Yeah.
like, and like most people, this is all in my opinion.
You
It's
just want to see the
cool.
games.
I just exactly.
You want to see the
bro.
games.
I don't care about the technical side of stuff, really. You know, if you told me that a potato was running this thing and the game still looked cool, I'm still.
That'd be pretty impressive.
You know, and it doesn't matter. Like, just because I hear this stuff doesn't mean I'm any more sold to spend more money on the console or
No,
anything.
of course
It's
not.
just
No.
like I don't care about terabyte size and shit. I don't care about sending a graph of my ear so that I can hear a little better.
I don't think anyone wants to actually do that either. That's
Yeah, no.
poor. That's that. They should probably not do that. Actually, they should come up with another solution.
Yeah, let's not do that.
Let's not do that.
But yeah, I mean, hey,
it's exciting to
telling
know
me-
that this stuff is going to make games better.
Exactly.
Yes.
You telling me this?
Yeah.
If you would have just said, "Hey, Jeff, the new Xbox and PlayStation can be more powerful than our PCs. Shit is pretty fucking sick," I'm gonna say, "Hell yeah." If you say, "Hey, Jeff, this is why," and you go on for 30 minutes like you just did,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go,
Great.
"Hell yeah."
No, I didn't. I knew that was your. I knew that was your answer. I was going for the comedic response. I knew it was coming, but
it's cool, man. I'm not like hating on it. This stuff, I don't geek out from this stuff. I just want to play the games.
If I didn't do that spiel, this would have been a 4-minute podcast. So I had to kind of do it. Yeah.
Hey, but there's tons of people that are interested in this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And you know, I don't even feel like I'm fully affected by the hard drive stuff because I never have over a terabyte of stuff ever. Usually when I play a game, I just delete it afterwards. You know what I mean? Like it is what it is. So, you know, all the possible negatives, they don't even really apply to me. So, you know, it is what it is. The controller did look cool though.
The controller, it's nice to see them iterate, you know, even small stuff like that. Because again, what are you supposed to fucking do to the Xbox controller to make it better? I mean, there's so little at this point.
It's already a great controller.
The Pro controller version of it is especially the first one. The second one had some issues. The first one is still in my hands the best controller ever fucking made. It's God. So you know, it is what it is. But it's nice to see that they're improving on it, obviously, and it would be kind of cool to see stuff like how long it will last off of a charge. That's the kind of stuff on a controller that you're interested in, you know, where you're not plugging it in all the time. But, I mean, they're getting so good with that, it will probably last for a fucking long time.
I just want to see games.
Yes.
That's where I'm at.
Yes.
We know the console's coming. We know it's going to be powerful. You know, it's been like fucking 7 years since we had a console. We know the shit is going to be fire. Let's just see what kind of fire you can make. You can have all the greatest tech in the world, but if you ain't got good games, your shit's dead to me. Your shit is dead to me.
Well, but that's the next exciting thing about that we've talked in the past for this upcoming generation is both of them have bought up shitloads of developers.
Yep.
Specifically to make good games for their consoles. So this last console gen we had was so kind of like we had good games. Like don't get me wrong, we had some good games, but this was felt like such a wishy-washy last 7 years. Just a real like kind of fucking whatever. Where once in a while you get some good fire. Nintendo always putting out good stuff, obviously, but from a perspective of the Xbox and PlayStation, not it. This time around, it's looking like. On paper, this is looking like a really exciting next 5-6 years.
Bring it on.
So let's bring it on.